So I wanted to share my story, my inspiration for wanting to qualify for Boston, wanting to run the Boston Marathon. I shared this story at work, sent out an email to our off-topic mailing group, and I also shared this on Facebook and got a lot of positive responses. So I kind of just wanted to do a video both to kind of thank the people that responded to me so well, people that supported me along the way, and also maybe share and inspire others. This is a little hard for me to talk about because it's a very personal thing, but I'll try to get through this and keep my composure, so bear with me. So I ran my first marathon about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago now, and I ran it in about 3:50, and my only goal then was to finish the race basically. I had just been doing really dumb training on my own. I didn't, research any actual training. Basically what I did is I just did a long run on Saturdays, and I just kept doing my long run longer and longer and longer and longer every week until I got up to 26.2. And to show you how dumb I was, I think I ran a full 26.2 like the last 5 or 6 weeks leading up to my actual marathon. So pretty much no training regimen in the world would recommend that, but that's what I did because I totally didn't know what I was doing. And so I finished my first marathon in 3:50, and I was basically hooked right away. And I started to think, maybe I started thinking about, I don't know how I first even looked into Boston qualifying times, but I guess I was kind of curious, like how good was that? How good did I do? And so then I learned about Boston qualifying times, and I was like, if I could run the Boston Marathon, that would really be great. So the personal part of this story is it'll be 10 years ago in March. I lost my baby girl, my only child, and basically I always wanted to do something kind of in memorial of her, and never really had a good idea. And so I kind of decided I wanted to run the Boston Marathon to dedicate it to my daughter that I lost. And so this is how I started my story that I sent out to my coworkers and stuff like that. That I mentioned one day to one of my coworkers at my last job, not my current job, that I was only, in quotes, 40 minutes from qualifying for the Boston Marathon. And he kind of scoffed at that and was like, I think he literally said, "I don't think that's going to happen. Like that's pretty far out there." But I was, pretty much committed that I was going to do it or die trying in the process, because I wanted to do this for my daughter's memory. And so I started training. I ran another half marathon in October. My marathon was in September, and I came in 4th overall. And that's when I was really like, okay, I'm pretty good at this running thing. I cut my half marathon time by 22 minutes from my first half marathon to my second within a matter of months. And so then I was like, I might be able to BQ like this spring. And so I started training really hard. I started pushing too hard, in fact. Again, I wasn't following any kind of training regimen. I was basically trying to run as fast as I could every single training run, which anyone who knows what they're doing will tell you that's a bad idea. That's a guaranteed way to burn out or get injured. And sure enough, within about 5 weeks of my goal marathon, which was Grandma's Marathon in Minnesota, I started first getting runner's knee, and that developed into my biceps femoris tendinopathy, and I basically couldn't walk for about 4 months. So that was a huge setback, a huge disappointment not to get to run my goal marathon, and obviously a setback in my goal to run the Boston Marathon and qualify. And so that was really hard. It kept getting better, but it was getting better so slowly. So I went up. And my next plan had been, if I hadn't BQ'd at Grandma's, I was going to run the Marquette Marathon, and I had already made reservations up there to go camping. So I went up there, I watched that marathon, I was like, okay, I got to go into physical therapy because my knee's not getting better any faster. So I went through physical therapy for my knee for about 9 months. basically to be able to walk without a limp. I was literally hardly able to walk. That's how bad it was. And so got back through, through that. I was able to run within like a month or so of starting physical therapy, I think it was. So I was training, I was still able to run, work on running while I was still doing physical therapy, but my knee took a long time to get back to normal. Long time to get back to normal. But so that was one big setback. I had trained again. I registered for Grandma's Marathon the following year, and I had my mom come up to watch, and I really thought I was going to do it that year. I really wanted to do it in front of my home crowd and everything. And the weather just turned out to be terrible. It was 88% humidity at 6:30 a.m. It just got worse after that. The black flags were flying, and I ended up walking. I tried to go out on BQ pace, and I ended up walking at 13.1 miles because it was just too hot. I just plain overheated. I couldn't keep my core temperature down. And so, that was very disappointing. I had to stop myself from crying actually when I crossed the finish line because that's how upset I was about not meeting my goal. And so my next attempt was at Marquette Marathon that following year, and once again I had a collapse. I started out on pace. I was on pace through about 16-18 miles and fell apart, and that was mostly from the downhill, the aggressive downhill that's there. My legs were just trashed, my quads were just trashed. I just couldn't run. So I finished in 3:34, I think, ended up, and I again very disappointed in myself. I had signed up for the Chicago Marathon a month later, and I did end up running that, but in that short a turnaround, I just couldn't I couldn't make any progress basically. My legs were trashed from the previous marathon, so that one was really just a finish. So then I was like, okay, I'm getting serious about my running. I'm going to do a real training regimen here. I bought the Fitzinger book and started following that, and really feeling like, okay, I'm taking this seriously. I'm really going to do it. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this done. So I started running high mileage. I was always running high mileage, but I started running really high mileage, and I was killing it. I was killing it in it was earlier this year actually, in January and February, setting PRs at various distances in really bad weather in January and February in Michigan with snow on the ground. And I was just like, I got it now. I was just like, I'm killing it. I'm on pace. I feel like I could just, I just knew I could do it. I was doing midweek long runs and weekend long runs. And I was just super confident. I was like super confident. This race, I was signed up for the Myrtle Beach Marathon. I was like, I'm going to do it this time. I just know I'm going to do it because I just was that confident. And again, about a month before that, I had a fall in basketball where my knee swelled up pretty bad, and I couldn't run for a while. Finally, when I ran again, I got runner's knee in the opposite leg, probably from overcompensating. And I got better from that, and I got runner's knee in my other leg, the one that was originally injured, and then I ended up getting runner's knee again in the opposite leg because I was trying to push myself through this. And long story short, I wasn't able to run the Myrtle Beach Marathon. Had to pull out of that. I did go down there. I watched the marathon again. I sat there on the sidelines as hard as it was. I was trying to be a good guy and cheer the other runners on and stuff like that. And so that was a big setback. I got a free entry, luckily, into Bayshore this past spring. I didn't have enough time. I only had like, it was I think early April when I was finally able to run, recover from both knees. And so I had like 6-8 weeks, something like that, just to get ready. So I knew I wasn't gonna, I was pretty sure I wasn't gonna be able to get back into BQ shape by then. So my only goal was to run solid, to not fall apart, and set a pretty good pace. And I pretty much accomplished that. I ran like a 3:20, I think a little over 3:20 something. And I was pretty happy with that. I finished, I was able to cross the finish line at like 4-minute mile pace because I saved up at, I was running conservatively. And then, long story short, I was signed up for the Marquette Marathon just before the BQ deadline, and I was able to do it. I ran a 3:11. I was able to BQ. I got qualified, and despite the biggest cutoff in history, I was able to make the cut because I pushed myself just a little bit more. I went out faster than I really expected to, and thankfully that paid off. I was able to hang on there, but it was a long journey for me. I had to fight through a lot of injuries, a lot of training. I got up as early as 3:30 in the morning to get out and do my long runs before work. I ran in, hail and sleet and snow through the winters. I ran in an earthquake. I ran when it was 30 degrees below zero outside in Minnesota and country roads. And I told this story in my email I sent out to work that I think it was this past Christmas, I went running at home in Minnesota, and it was so cold that the sweat that pooled inside my coat actually froze solid by the end. And I also had my water bottle actually froze. My Gatorade turned into a slushie. That's how cold it was. So I ran in hot weather. I ran in cold weather. I really pushed myself. I ran up to 112 miles a week, and I was just really set on it. And I kept, in certain moments I would think about that coworker who said I wasn't going to be able to do it, that I couldn't cut 40 minutes off my time, but I did it. And so that was my big motivation. I really wanted to do this and dedicate it to my daughter. I bought, my daughter was Brazilian, my ex is Brazilian, the mother. So I bought, a couple of years ago, I bought a singlet specifically for the purpose when I was going to run the race to dedicate it to her, and I put it away and I've never worn it. So I'm going to wear that for the Boston Marathon next year, assuming I'm healthy. I'm hoping that the weather will cooperate with me. I'm going to try to push myself to be in the best shape, set a PR. I don't know exactly what pace I'm going to go for yet. I'm probably going to shoot for at least under a 3:10. I ran a 3:11 at Marquette. I feel like I might be capable of under a 3 eventually. I still don't feel like I've peaked yet, but I do think I'm capable of under 3:10 for sure. But it'll be, I know Boston is kind of a crapshoot in April. It could be really cold weather, real warm weather, like they had this year, so it's really hard to judge. For personal reasons, obviously I would really like to do well, but certain things are outside of my control, so I'll do my best, and regardless, I'm going to feel really good about that. I'm going to try not to, I'll probably be crying when I cross the finish line. When I crossed the finish line in Marquette, I broke down several times because I just kept saying, I worked so hard for this. I said to myself, oh, I worked so hard for this, and it was really surreal. I still kind of can't believe I really did it. The whole time I just felt borderline, and I was like, I don't know if I can hold this pace the whole way. So I was really pushing myself, and thankfully I did, because I barely made the cut. I made it by like 30 seconds, and just enough to get in and accepted. So yeah, I just wanted to share that story. My kind of 3 summary points. First of all, don't be that guy like my coworker that said, you can't do that. You're not going to do that thing you want to do, And then if someone does, rain on your parade like that, just use that as extra motivation. Like, I'm going to show this guy, when I set my alarm for 3:30, I'm thinking, that guy doesn't think I'm going to set my alarm for 3:30 to be able to do this, So just use that as extra motivation. People who say you can't do what you want to do. And it doesn't have to be running. I talk a lot about running. Obviously, I'm a runner, but I mean, whatever you want to do. You want to lose weight, you want to climb Kilimanjaro, you want to, whatever it is you want to do, you can probably do it. Within certain limits. Realistically, I'm not going to be an Olympic marathoner or anything like that. There's certain physical limits to what you can do, but if you work really hard, if you're really dedicated, you really can do some amazing things. You can surprise yourself. I signed up for the Marathon de Mont Blanc, the full marathon next year, so honestly kind of scared. I don't even know if I can do it, but I'm pushing my boundaries a little bit and trying to see how far I can go and how well I can do. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share my story, maybe inspire people. If I inspire one person, it's worth sharing that out. So thanks for listening, and I really want to thank everyone who shared out. I've included a bunch of blurbs here from different social media, from work, emails. A lot of people talk to me in person. If I missed a shout out to you, I'm sorry, it wasn't intentional. I tried to gather everything I could find. But yeah, a lot of people talked to me in person, shared their stories about either losing weight or having lost a loved one or things like that. So I really appreciate people sharing their stories, letting me know that I've inspired them. Makes me feel really good. I always often have people come up to me and say that they're inspired when they see me out running in rain and sleet and stuff like that. And I had my someone here at the apartment building tell me they saw me out running, so they decided they better get out and run and stuff like that. So that makes me feel good. I know I'm not Rosa Parks or anything like that, I'm not doing anything fantastic here, but it does make me feel good to inspire people in small ways. And so I just wanted to say thanks for sharing that. Thanks for everyone who supported me, people who bought me running gear for Christmas and stuff like that along my way. People who come out and watch the races and congratulate me and all that stuff. So long rambling message here, but I just wanted to kind of do a full thank you, kind of tell my whole journey. I did a race report, but I just kind of want to talk about the whole journey in one fell swoop here. So thanks for listening to that. I'll be back with more content. I got a shoe review coming up, and I'll be back soon.